All right, just giving it a second for folks to trickle in. This is a very profound intro for this song. Hopefully, y'all can hear the music in the background. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and choosing to be part of this very special event, DEIB Unfiltered, the BIPOC Leadership Experience. My name is Asia Smith, she, her pronouns. I'm an executive leadership coach and community catalyst at Think Human, and I'm tuning in from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area today. It's a rare 70 to 80 degree day in the winter in February here. So I feel like it's because of this event. I think this panel is really going to bring the heat. I know we have an international crowd with us. So, really quick, let's all connect. Let us know in the chat what your name is and where you're dialing in from today. So, let's see who we have with us. Okay, I see Mike from Los Angeles, Tim from London, Natalie from Toronto, Vaughn from Dublin. Okay, I see Portland, New Hampshire. We really do have an international crowd here. This is really nice. Yeah, got Kansas City. Oh, congrats on the Super Bowl win. We got Florida. So we really do have folks from everywhere here with us at the event. So welcome to those who just got a shout out and to everyone who's sharing the space with us today. We're really grateful to have you here. Please take from this conversation whatever you need to serve you in your growth, and please don't let the growth stop there. We encourage connecting with a teammate or a friend or a loved one, perhaps even a coach or a therapist to talk things through so you can take care of yourself and feel empowered to continue this discussion in your community. This isn't just for Black History / Heritage Month. This is a conversation to extend far beyond. So let's get warmed up a little bit more in the chat for today's conversation. If you are BIPOC, so that's Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, what are some lessons that you have learned throughout your personal and professional journey? Feel free to share. And if you are not BIPOC, perhaps you are an ally in action, feel free to share in the chat something that you've learned or that you would like to learn more about the BIPOC experience. So this is where we can really kind of open up and get to know each other a little bit. So yeah. We still have people introducing themselves. Okay, we have New York, Michigan, welcome. Okay, Brandon, how to navigate people's perception of a Black man. Okay, thank you for sharing. Yeah. See if anything else comes up in the chat. If you are BIPOC, something that you've learned along your journey, or if you aren't, you're an ally in action, something you've learned or would like to learn. Jeanette, how to work more diligently. Oh, the chat's lighting up. Okay. Well, I got you there, Jeanette. Okay, more things are coming in. And so Andrea, unconscious bias and exploring that. This is amazing. Okay, so thank you to everyone who's sharing. It's really great to see folks interacting in the chat. And throughout this fireside chat event, if you will, if you feel energized to say something, please don't hesitate to share, as we are seeing in the chat. This is what makes these events with our community special. Feel free to comment and ask questions. This is all really great input so far, and your presence and contribution always make the conversation richer. You might spark a thought for someone in the room, or we all might learn something for what you have to say. We're definitely seeing some great things popping up in the chat already. With all that being said, this webinar would not be happening if it was not for our fantastic partners and the commitment and heartfelt work of our team and leadership at Think Human and Divinely Powered Empower to Fly, to provide a safe and brave space for real conversations in the world just like this one. So I'm thrilled to introduce, starting with Think Human and the rest of our partners for today's webinar, since I'm on the Think Human team. Think Human is a leadership development organization that supports HR and L&D leaders with implementing community-centered and experiential-based leadership programs for leaders at all levels that are built to support a culture of belonging. The leadership training programs that we offer, in particular our flagship programs, Leader Lab and Mini Lab, are designed to create mindset shifts and behavioral change over time that sticks with a heart-centered approach. Toward the end of the webinar, a poll will pop up, so you can let us know if you're interested in hearing from Think Human and our partners. And throughout the webinar, I'll put my link in the chat. Next up, Power to Fly That's a women-led company focused on empowering underrepresented talent across all races, ages, ethnicities, sexual orientations, abilities, veteran statuses, and gender identities. They achieve this by connecting and upskilling diverse talent with companies that are committed to creating a more inclusive and equitable workplace. To explore ways to work with Power to Fly, visit powertofly.com. And last but not least, Divinely Powered is a full-service leadership development and executive coaching firm dedicated to serving the world's leading organizations in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Divinely Powered incorporates evidence-based research from neuroscience, positive psychology, cognitive behavioral coaching, and appreciative inquiry methodology to convert their clients' talent development demands and retention challenges into sustainable opportunities. To learn more about Divinely Powered, visit divinelypowered.com. Thanks again to our partners and to our amazing panel, who you will meet shortly, for helping us bring this event to life. Before we dive into the webinar, we're going to get into a bit more of an artistic flair. So we had some music. Now we're going to transition into a little bit of spoken word. And we like to share an artistic moment during an event to clear our minds and settle in for the conversation. So we hope that this helps you feel grounded and open for today's discussion. So blessing us with his gifts today, we have Christopher C.A. Williams. Chris, also known as C.A., is a Tennessee-based spoken word poet, and he's also a publisher of 2 books. C.A. is the founder and coordinator of Under One Roof, which is a quarterly event started in June 2018 that brings together poets, comedians, and musicians. Along with writing poetry and coordinating events, he's also created visual art inspired by his book, Different Sides. To check out CA's work, he can be followed at C.A. Williams Poet on social media platforms. So without further ado, C.A., take it away.
Thank you all for having me. I will actually be sharing a poem with you all from my book, Different Sides. And the piece is titled, Conflicting Colors. Would life be better without colors? I only ask because they always seem to conflict with themselves and each other. For you may be confused, but if you give me a minute or two, I will explain this to you. Red, the color of love, the color of roses given to you on Valentine's Day. But then you turn the other way, and red is the evilness painted upon the devil's face. The color you see when anger arises and happiness is misplaced. So you can see why it's hard for me to decide if red is terrible or great. Blue, the color that gets me smiling in the morning when I look up to the sky and there's no rain cloud in sight. The color that gets me smiling when I go to the unpolluted ocean or sea, look through the ripples 4 feet deep and see the fish swimming. But even with all these smiles, the first thing I say when I'm feeling upset is I'm feeling blue. So you can see why these colors have me confused. Green, the color of riches and money, the color of new beginnings like the season of spring. Oh, how we love to see leaves growing on the trees. But all this positivity turns into negativity when that money turns to greed and those leaves are poison ivy. See, I like it when it was not debatable. Colors coming together to create something beautiful, like a rainbow. But now there is so much hate and debate, and people want to discriminate because all they can think is homosexual. So would life be better without colors? Like the old TVs in black and white. I said it still would not be all right because there would still be racism and there would still be fights. See, we say red is Indian, yellow is Asian, white is Caucasian, and black is African American. But beyond the color, we are still human. And if you want to get to know me and how unique I can be, you have to know my personality. So yes, we have different complexions, but the one thing that we have in common is being human. And that alone, I would hope, would help the conflicting of colors end. Thank you all again for having me. I'll put my information in the chat.
Wow, thank you so much, CA, for that amazing poem. Welcome, everyone. My name is Hakemia Jackson, CEO of Divinely Powered, Global Executive Coach, HR disruptor, and I am happy to be here with you all today to have this much needed conversation, DIB Unfiltered. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone is loving the poem that we just heard. We get some 2 snaps. Let's go. This is awesome. So we ready. The lack of honesty and transparency around D&IB are putting organizations at risk. They're appearing more performative than genuinely invested in their DIB initiatives. They're either checking a box or not fully committed to the movement. And their talent and community are now calling them out for it. Talent today are asking for more audacious conversations around this topic. As an HR disruptor, I've seen people often avoid the rawness that's needed for change to occur. Out of fear or being rejected or misunderstood, people sit back. And you have others on the other side of that spectrum who just flat out don't want to hear the truth about their DIB efforts because they don't want their illusion destroyed. In order to move past the barriers, we must create spaces such as this one here today for all forms of authenticity and lived experiences to be expressed. This is how you build unity. This is how you empower people to mobilize change. Most importantly, this is how you speak truth to power by giving voice to the topics and issues that are often expressed, but less often discussed freely. So today, you're gonna take the pacifier out of your mouth, community. You will not get coddled here today. We are gonna nurture you in a new and healthy way. And so with that, please join me in expressing love to our brilliant thought leaders. Welcome, Sienna Brown, Leadership Strategist and Global Senior Director of DIB from Power to Fly, Tila Evans, Culture, Equity, and Partnership Expert of Divinely Powered, Ricky Turner, former HR executive from Facebook and Nike, currently head of people and future. And just a special shout out to Think Human for offering their platform and resources to Divinely Powered to have this conversation. And so before we jump in, the chat is already going off. They're ready for this real conversation. We're about to get real today. We're gonna hear some amazing thoughts, but I would love to get your thoughts on this quote that I have from James Baldwin, written in the New York Times article of 1962. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. What aroused your thinking most about this quote just stated?
It's like, oh, we're doing the silent look around. I like this. Okay, well, I'll hop in. One, I mean, shout out James Baldwin. You know, when I think about like my own queer identity, I think about the work that he's done. I'm like, yes, please, more of this in the world. The first thing that really comes to mind for me is around perseverance, right? I think that, you know, people can have this intention, this desire to want something to change, but unless they actually put their actions behind it, you know, they take that commitment and they actually have that consistency and persevere through the work, especially as it relates to DEIB, right? It's challenging, right? It's hard to know what progress is being made. It's, you know, easy to be like, well, you know, I'll start this at a different time, or, you know, let me have more conversations about it. I'm not really sure if I'm saying the right words or doing the right things, right? And for me, it's about just jumping in, doing that work, leading through with your action, and staying committed to that.
I'll snap and then I'll go next. No, I mean, I love this quote. +1 for me, I think with this Baldwin quote, what it's really making me think about is the importance of awareness, right? Because to be able to look at something, we have to be aware. So whether that's self-awareness, awareness of the spaces around you, awareness of the conversations that you're having, and like what Tila was saying is like the actions that you're taking. And so when we think about that, if we can't look at the problem, then it's going to be very hard to change it. But then also, if we can't take ownership of the role that we play in it as well, it's going to make it really hard for everyone to be able to collectively move forward. And so with that, Ricky, I'm gonna give you the stage.
Thank you for that. You know, what this quote calls to mind for me is to be courageous, right? And to take a moment, catch your breath, see something for what it is, and to handle it, right? It is difficult sometimes, and it's easier sometimes to put your face in the sand or to turn away from a thing. But I think what Brother Baldwin is saying is, gird yourself up, steady your nerves, look at the thing that you have to attack, and then face that thing and resolve it. So that's a really powerful quote from him.
Yes, and so we are going to face this thing today, this much needed conversation. The chat is going off. I'm loving what I'm reading in the chat. What makes this topic so important for us right now? I know it's a lot going on in the States as well as globally, because I know we have an international crowd here, but we really want to get your thoughts on why now have this very raw and authentic conversation about DEIB.
Why not now? I mean, I'll get us off, but why not now? You know what I mean? And I think we're living in a time, and you gave a beautiful introduction of the fact that a lot of companies and organizations are either deprioritizing, defunding, or thinking through what does DEIB actually mean for them, and still having to think about what is the business case for that, instead of realizing that this is something that's not negotiable, right? We were talking in our pre-talk about oftentimes it lives in this cloud, or it has the title DEIB, and then it's does that matter, versus being able to say every individual that works for any organization is committed to that. And then also what we were saying before, are holding people accountable to it, right? And so I think when we have these conversations, most of y'all are probably in the room because you're committed, you want to see change. I've been looking at the chat, but then also thinking about how are we taking what we're learning today and then taking this to the people who aren't here and for the people who need to be a part of these conversations. So yeah, there's no better time than now, but then also holding on to that perseverance and marathon mindset of this will continuously be a conversation over time. And then how are we taking actions and holding that space for ourselves as we're moving forward?
Right. Yeah. And prioritizing it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll add on to that. I mean, exactly. Why not now, right? I think as we look at the conversations that are being had today, in a lot of ways, they are similar, right? And, in the work that I've been doing previously, I've worked with a lot of HR and DEI leaders who are tasked with these enormous outcomes of trying to bring these inclusive and, inclusive programs to an organizations, but oftentimes they have to do it in this kind of silo. And I think the more that we have these kinds of conversations and talk about the different hardships that folks are going through, how they're actually advocating, securing stakeholders, and moving things forward, the more conversations that we can have around this and be in this more united front, I think that's when we can start to really see progress being made. And I also just want to shout out that we're having this unfiltered conversation, and y'all, let me tell you, it's truly unfiltered. I cannot tell you how many times everyone was bring the rawness, bring the energy, bring the things that people, might be uncomfortable hearing, but it is through that uncomfortability that we're actually going to make some movement. We can actually support each other. We're actually hearing each other. We're asking the questions.
Right. We lost the last part of your message, but I know it was powerful. And I just want to call out one of our members in the chat. I think it's Angela. You actually jumped ahead, but I want to bring it up because you brought it up. She said, why now? Because we're dealing with a governor that's looking to defund DEIB initiatives so that institutions are forced to stop doing them. And, for our global community here in the States, there are certain states, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, that are now pushing for DEI initiatives to stop. They've actually also in Florida, I'm originally from Florida, Tampa, Florida, has banned certain books, the 1619 Project, Maya Angelou, Cage Bird Sings, as well as others. And these are books that us DEI practitioners have recommended that some leaders read and explore to learn about our culture. So when we ask why now, it's an imperative that we speak up now so that we can shift the tide, so that it can go in a positive direction instead of this current wave of reject DEI movement that's trying to occur. So thank you, Angela, for bringing that up. Go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, why now? Because the gains that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents secured for us are under attack,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And so why now? Because it's our turn, right? I'm in a generation that my parents are saying, you know what? It's your turn to fight the fight. We've given you an example. We've shown you how to do it. The enemy comes kind of in a different form, but you recognize it, and we've taught you that. So it's our obligation to fight now. And additionally, I think, we're at a place where we have to work through other people's discomfort in order for us to exist. Like, how bananas is it that and it's no coincidence that it's Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Florida, right? Some of the most heinous states with the most atrocious racial histories are now in a place where alleged enlightened people are saying, because I'm uncomfortable, I will not allow you to be your authentic self. I will not allow you to contextualize your existence. How freaking nuts is that? So that's why now. But I'm encouraged because there has not been a generation more intelligent than this generation. Black women are absolutely amazing. They are well equipped for this fight. And that's a constituency that you don't want to be sideways with. Black men are phenomenal. We are more than equipped for this fight. We have endured and persevered. We are marathon ready, right? We're built for that. So although the fight is now, I'm not worried about it. It's like, we good, right? And hopefully through our efforts, then our children will see, oh, that's how daddy did it. That's how grandma did it. The fight's gonna come to them too. And we'll lead by example and make sure that they're prepared for it. It's disheartening that you have to have the fight, but I'm ready for it. It's cool.
Ricky, you ain't the only one. We all ready for it. We here and we got your back. That's for sure. And the audience, the community is loving you as well. And so I seen you shaking your head. Tila, I know we lost you. I would love to pull you back in, but I seen you shaking your head, Sienna. Anything to add?
+1. And I mean, Ricky, you just had me thinking about how are we redefining generational narratives, right? And we think about this, we're talking about what's happening now. It was interesting the other day at Power to Fly. We were giving a presentation on Black History Month from a global lens. So for context, I'm from New York, originally from Brooklyn, but I've been living in Spain for over a decade. So really thinking about what does this look like across the globe? And there were so many names and stories and rich histories that, number one, a lot of people did not know about. And then also when we were looking at it on a global lens, it is systematically set up that we do not know about these stories, right? It is systematically set up that we do not know about a lot of hardships where we might be having these conversations and saying, oh, of course, I know who that is. I know what Central Park was before it was Central. All of these different conversations versus being able to say, how do we make sure that we're still putting our grain of sand? I don't know what the saying is in English, but like dropping our grain of sand and being able to say, how are we continuing these conversations in some type of way and shedding light to the history that impacts where we are now and then what the world is going to look like for generations to come, you know?
I was gonna add also why now is because we have a community of Black HR people that need support, right? They need our energy, right? We talk about it being a marathon, but let me contextualize a marathon for Black people that are in HR. Imagine you're running a marathon, and that's to get your organization to change the way that they think, and you get out 4 or 5 miles, and some executive says, there's something I don't understand. You now have to run back 5 miles, get them, and then move them forward. And you might get 3 miles with that person, and another person says, I don't understand something. You now got to go back those 3 miles and get that person, right? And you got to do that over and over and over again. And the impact on you and your psychology can be damaging. You may think there's not an end to this. And I've already run 50 marathons trying to get people to get caught up. And then you realize that those people aren't being genuine and authentic, right? They have this, I call it weaponized ignorance. Oh, I don't understand something. So you feel like your efforts are in vain. Look, people, that will exhaust you. And unless you know that there's a community that's got a shared stressful event with you, you may feel alone. And we don't want you to feel that way, right? Yes. No one should feel that way. So that's why, like, you need to know you're not by yourself. You're not crazy, right? You see what you see. It is exactly what you see. Even though people tell you it's not, you got it, right? So push through it. So that's why now.
Yeah. And Ricky, I just have to even like add on top of that. I mean, I think even Sienna, what you're talking about around like the different generations, right? And even Ricky, you mentioned this around the kind of piece of the fight that we're kind of all a part of. And I feel like when I think about this moment now, that word that I know we've all been talking about, accountability, comes into play, right? So when we see these HR leaders running those marathons, I don't want you to have to run back that 5 miles. I want you to like be able to look at that person next to you and say, yo, go back and go get your homie and bring them up here, right? Because I don't need to be taxed because of your ignorance, right? You can't hide behind not knowing anymore. There's been a lot of awareness brought to the world. You can't hide behind like not being educated because, well, there's a lot of things around equity and access, but for folks who are like in allyship, right? You can find resources, you can go online, you can educate yourself, you can understand how to ask the questions without putting that burden on historically excluded populations. And so I think this is like a real prime time for us to really hold folks accountable to the things they say they want to do, because yeah, that I just think the accountability piece.
It's huge. And thank you for adding that. And I want to say, we're getting some really great thoughts in the chat. Specifically, somebody said, I feel heard and seen. I'm in tears right now. And so, yes, Gina, we do see you. This is that space. This is the importance of having conversations with people who have similar lived experiences as you. And so my question is, you talked about that marathon and we talked about just being exhausted or just frustrated. What characteristics or what's that magic that you typically tap into along that leadership journey to ensure that you don't reach this place of being burnt out, or just making sure that you're successful in this journey?
So for me, there are a few skills that I think every good HR person needs to have, but more so for Black people. One is the ability to analyze and own the data, right? Because remember 2 generations ago, that was the default. Where's the data? Where's the freaking data's here now, right? And not only do I know it, I own it, right? The second thing is the ability to storytell, right? You have to personalize and humanize the data, right? The third thing is the ability to influence. Like, you got to see the entire chessboard and you know that those people are coming, right? So you may decide that's not a hill I want to fight on today because I got a bigger battle I need to win another day, right?
Come on.
And some of that comes with experience. Bless my soul. I remember when I was a younger HR person, man, I was throwing bombs all over the place, right? You not this and this isn't right and that isn't right. But one, that fatigues you. Two, it erodes your credibility. Even if you are right, people begin to turn you off. Now that I've become more mature, I keep my bombs until I can do the most damage. Right? It's like, okay,
repeat that. That's a
I'm
mess.
not gonna blow that up. I see that, right? Add that to the and now when I need to dismantle something, I have a fuller, richer narrative that I can use. So those skills, don't let people tell you that your ability to empathize is a soft skill. It's a superpower.
Yes, it is.
Right? Don't let people tell you that your ability to feel and to see other marginalized people is a soft skill. It is a superpower, right? That is the devil telling you that. Don't fall for that, right? So again, I just want to affirm for people that may be in the same spot. You good. Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, with everything God meant you to have. You are ready for that. You just have to understand how to use it a little bit.
Yes, it's a power skill. And somebody said the devil is a lie. You're right about that. Go ahead, Tila, Sienna.
Perfect. I mean, the thing that really comes to mind for me, because this work it can be really exhausting and really challenging. You're doing a lot of education for yourself, educating for other people. You're running that marathon. And so some like personal wisdom that I really take like with me is around being really intentional. Like, what is it that I am setting out to do, and not letting other people's narratives or ideas influence what I know, like I know needs to be done, right? It's like, yeah, sure, you want this checkbox over here? All right, well, but what I was hired to do was this, right? And to accomplish this is what needs to be resourced. This is what we need to do. And because I think you can get a lot of what they call scope creep, right? Things being lobbed in here and added into your work, which is then taking away from like what your end goal is. And if this work is already taxing, it's like setting yourself up for being burnt out, right? For missing the marks. And they can come back and be like, oh, see, like this DEIB strategy doesn't really work, or, we need to roll things back, right? So really being intentional and also really carving out like your own time. And then the other thing is around like boundaries and protecting your energy. Exactly like what Ricky said. Like some people will be saying some trifling ass things in meetings, okay? Or on Slack, right? And it makes you just want to reach through and do some things. But what you got to remember is like every time you do that, every time you drop the bomb, like Ricky said, right, that also takes from you, right?
Yes.
So just being really intentional about how you're spending your energy and like staying really focused on your course, on your path, and fighting the fights that are going to get you where you want to go. Because if you're out here fighting every single one, you're going to be burnt out real quick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes away from your power. So when I was listening to both of you speak, I thought about like, okay, I'm now becoming powerless when I focus on all these different things. And if I conserve my power, think about, when you plug back in, you're a whole different person. It's time to reboot and come and attack the task at hand. So I love that, Tila. Sienna?
Yeah, I mean, yell at my people. I'm just sitting here taking my own mental notes just because we're touching on so many things. And if y'all are taking notes in the audience, please do, because there's some gems here. For me, I want to go to what Tila was just saying around intention, right? So when we think about leading with intention, a definition that I love to think about is that intention is also the healing process of a wound in medical terms. And I'm big on definitions. And so when we think about that, I also think for us to show up in these spaces, we also need to be able to heal ourselves. How does that happen? Going back to the awareness that we were talking about, focusing on what do we actually need, and knowing that when we're able to give that to ourselves, no matter what environment, system, whatever you might be in, making sure that you dedicate that. I mean, it's corny, but like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? But really thinking about that and thinking through what are the things that you need each and every day to be able to come in and then fight the fight, right? Ricky was talking about it. You got to choose your battle. Some days you're like, listen, I can't deal with this right now because I know that there's something bigger. And so with that, also like owning your vision, your values, and your voice, because again, when you are in these rooms and when you're in these spaces, if you are one of the only ones, it's going to be exhausting as all hell, like point blank, right? But really thinking through how do you make sure that as you're running that marathon and going over hurdles, you're remembering who you are and realizing that it is not your job to be liked. It is your job to be you, and realize that what you bring to the table will help that change. And the third thing that I would just say is like going back to Ricky's recommendations about understanding how to bridge the gap, right? Oftentimes, if you are in these leadership positions, and again, we're all leaders here, right? It does not matter what your title is, it does not matter what your role is, but thinking through how can you bridge the gap for folks, right? What does the community that you're trying to serve need? What does the company need? What do the clients need? What does the C-suite need? And figuring out how to create that golden thread and be able to have that communication. My background's in psychology, so it's like, who are you talking to? Figure out who you're talking to, what they want to hear, and then what Ricky was saying, be able to story tell that so that you're making it make sense for the people who need it. And then you're positioning yourself as someone that is invaluable, because again, when we're thinking about DEIB or HR, this is not something that lives on its own. It's integrated into the entire employee experience, and it's also integrated into people's personal and professional lives, right? And so owning that. And the last thing I'll say, I'm looking at time, but thinking through, I often talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when we think about our hierarchy of needs, our end goal is to be able to reach our full potential, right? In our personal lives and in our professional lives. So understanding what you need to be able to have a sentiment of safety, what you need for a sentiment of belonging, and realizing where you're finding that in work. And if you can't find that in work, in your personal life, so that as you are growing on your career path and then also making more impact, you're taking care of yourself and making sure you have the basics along the way before showing up for everybody else and trying to save the world, because we can't save the world if you're not saving yourself first. Go ahead.
And I know, because I also like time, but I just have to add on, we might like get to this as well. Like so much of like what you're saying really resonates, Sienna. And like something that I've seen so much working with like HR and DEI leaders is oftentimes these departments are the only ones being tasked with the work. And like we've said many times before, if we are going to create any kind of change, it needs to be systemic. And for it to be systemic, all stakeholders need to be involved. And so oftentimes when I'm talking to these leaders, I'm like, what are the other OKRs? What are the other things that leaderships in different departments are accountable for, right? And I think it's really important to not isolate yourself in the work. And if someone is saying, okay, this is what we want our outcome to be, great, that's awesome. I love that that's going to be our outcome. Great, to achieve this, we need to do X, Y, Z. And to do that, we need this resourcing. We need this leader a part of it. We need them to be accountable. This is how everybody has to come up and show and be a part of the table, because nothing is going to change unless everyone is involved. And I just think that is something also I just want to share, is that trying to do the work all yourself and all in your department is, again, setting yourself up for that failure. And so bringing everybody else in and holding them accountable is important.
So, Ricky, earlier you talked about, that apathy and resistance to the DIB initiatives. And I would love to hear the thoughts from all the panelists, but first starting with Ricky, how have you navigated those tough conversations around the apathy, around white supremacy, privilege, and power dynamics within the workplace? Because I've seen some people in the chat, it's like, well, how do I bring this to my majority white senior leadership team?
Yeah, it is. Thank you for that question. What I've been able to do is to find the things that matter to the people that I'm trying to tell the story to. And part of that has been growing up and saying, these people don't care if Black people come here or not. What they care about is share value. What they care about is margin. What they care about is run rate or production rate. That's cool. Once I understand what you care about, then I can change my behaviors and modify my activities to get you what we both want, right? I also have become wise enough to recognize that you may be working against me. I just need to see where that's coming from. Ultimately, facts win out, right? And truth wins the day. So just negotiating it that way, right? So for example, worked at Whirlpool, we had an initiative to get kind of more women and Black people in the general manager roles into our manufacturing facilities. Some of the people at these facilities, they didn't care, right? They were not on the side of that. But when I brought you great female leadership with a dynamite background in supply chain that could actually turn your facility around, and if I could grow the margin in your facility and that grew your bonus, I got your attention now, right? Her name just happens to be Keisha. So we're gonna put Keisha down here. She's gonna turn this place around, right? Like things like that. Now, is that how I want to live? No, I want like the challenge is I want to convert them. That was the early challenge. I can't convert everybody, not my job, right? But what I do have to do is educate you. And once I educate you, I'm gonna hold you accountable for those facts. And if you're gonna go in the face of the data that I'm presenting you, then that's good. That's on you. Like, what man is that in the performance review process? You got to own that. So it's kind of a maturity that you have to get into with those. I do want to be clear, and I'm gonna say not everybody. A younger me would roll my eyes when I said not everybody, but there are allies out there.
Yes.
And I identify them and I love on them and I give them an abundance of grace, because even the best ally is uncomfortable and afraid and fearful, right? So I try to create those spaces for people, right?
Yeah.
Also, systemically being in HR, there are systemic things you can do, especially from a recruiting side, to make it a little bit easier. There's software right now that will kind of eliminate all of the diverse markers in a person's resume so that all you get is the facts, right? You can buy that software. If you're setting up a panel, you can, if I'm doing the phone screens, I can make sure the panel looks like what I want it to look like, right? Like there are things that you can do based on where you are. But those are some of the things that I've done. As an executive, it's about, okay, this is actually gonna grow share value for us. So that's where I am now.
Thank you so much for Ricky, especially calling out the allyship. That's our next segment. So I really do appreciate you. You get a lot of love about that as well, but I would love to hear Tila and Sienna's thoughts.
Tila, I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
I was like, I feel like I keep taking up space there. All right. I mean, I feel like Ricky, you said it really, really well. So like my background is also in partnerships. So when it comes to really understanding people, understanding pain points and motivations, that is key, because that is ultimately what drives people. And whether or not you want to have a conversation around ROI, right? You have to understand who it is you're talking to and like what level of understanding do they have. And like once you kind of get that, then you can understand how to move things forward, right? How to kind of like move with things and not have to work as hard. And so I think this is also like a really good chance to employ like that empathy power, right? So the one thing I will say is like, you don't have to do all the work of solving for somebody else, right? So asking the questions. If someone's like, oh, well, I don't really know what to say, or if you ask them more questions around like, what do you think about that? How do you think that we should address this? What are some of the ideas that you have around this? What do you think's been kind of like holding us back in the past? How can we create more spaces where people have opportunities to learn safely, right? And so again, by just like taking a step back and not taking that all on yourself and really engaging other people to help you in that work, I think that will be really powerful, because then, you'll also start to really understand what is driving them and how they can be your partner in moving this to the next step, right? So yeah, that's something else.
Plus one. And I mean, I'm just resonating because like my background's in psychology. So it's like, who are you talking to? What really matters to them, right? And I think both Ricky and Tila, y'all hit the nail on the head and really thinking through clear, consistent, calm communication. For me, that has been one thing that has been able to move the needle forward so much quicker and with so much more impact. Because again, as we're having these conversations, inside we might be like, this didn't just, but it's okay, right? So it's also being able to step back and say, okay, what is my end goal? What am I really trying to do? Because if I have my mind on the end goal, then I won't go off on someone when they misspoke in Slack, but I'll say, what am I really trying to do? And really focusing on how are you supporting yourself to be able to have that clarity, to be able to have that calm as you're in those conversations. That doesn't mean when it's time to go off because that calm isn't necessary that you don't stand up for yourself, but it does mean really thinking through again, who am I speaking to? What matters to me? And then again, how can I help bridge that gap? And two like really quick tips, but like, as we're talking about marathon mindset, also as folks are trying to grow their business, gain new talent, do it in a quick way, but then also want to have more, all of these different nuances is actually understanding what are some quick wins that people can have, or at least feel like they're having. So we know that this is not a short-term strategy. It won't happen in a week or a month, but oftentimes C-suite leaders want to say, what's happening now? What is the progress that we're making? So setting yourself up for saying, what are the long-term goals? And then what are some of the quick yet intentional and strategic wins that we can be having, and then communicating consistently. And the last thing I would share also, and this is silly, but like, have the thing that makes you feel good before you have to handle those conversations. Whether I live abroad, so I'm like, whether that's sending a WhatsApp to your homie and being like, listen, send me all the good energy you have. I'm about to have a hard conversation, right? Whether that is putting on Freedom by Beyonce and going for a run. That's my deal, but going for a run before you have to do it. But whatever that is, it's like keeping in mind, again, what is the end goal that we're working towards, and how do I bring people along for the journey? Oftentimes, people don't understand the importance of it. I break it down of like, let's talk about being right-handed or left-handed. How many left-handed people are in the room? Few folks raise their hand. How many people think about what it's like to be left-handed on a day-to-day basis? Everybody who raises their hand either has a mother, brother, sister, cousin, or loved one who's left-handed, or they never think about it. Now we bring that into, what does that actually mean for left-handed people? They have to go like this on the subway. They can't use scissors, or write on the desk in school, and then making it make sense for something that's so simple, and then saying, okay, imagine all of the nuances for other identities that people might be holding that are that much more complex, you know? So I think also understanding their readiness, and then like what Ricky was saying, using that storytelling to be able to identify what they need to hear and how they need to hear it.
Let's go, Sienna.
I love that example because my daughter is a lefty. And I remember when she came home and said, Mommy, I'm different from everyone else. I'm the only one that writes with the left. And I said, no, baby, you're unique. I said, you are unique and you were chosen to be different. Ooh, that's fun, isn't it? And she was like, you know what? It is, Mommy. So to your point, you know, I love that example. You're getting a lot of love in the chat as well. So I would just love to hear your thoughts around this. What are some of the best approaches for our allies? I've seen in the chat, we had a couple of people say, I'm a mom of biracial children and I want to be an ally. I want to learn more about their experiences, you know, leaders. How can they make a meaningful and impactful experience for their BIPOC talent within the workplace? Ricky, it's you. I see you wanting to jump in.
You know,
he's such a gentleman.
I'm gonna yield to. I'll yield to the ladies. I'll speak last. I'll do that. Or if you want me. So this is
go ahead.
For our allies. What I've told them is, one, recognize the power that you have and the privilege that you hold, and then leverage it. I remember being at Nike. And there were definite white allies. And we would strategize sometimes before meetings who was going to ask what question, because the question coming from them had a different impact than the question coming from me.
Love that.
And they got an opportunity to demonstrate their allyship. What I provided for them was support and understanding. Like, they're afraid too. You know, they're afraid. And helping them to work through that fear, equipping them, right? Giving them grace. They want to be seen also, right? But as an ally, I think that's what you can do. Also kind of recognize your own ignorance. Like this is what I love about my people and marginalized people is that we've learned to have an abundance of humanity. And so if you're genuine and authentic with us and we recognize that you don't know something, we're gonna love you. Like we're okay. She don't get it. I got it, right? Like that's universal for us, right? But if you are belligerent in your ignorance or arrogant in your ignorance, we're gonna let you wither on like, hey, that's your thing, right? So I would tell them, be genuine. If you don't know something, there's a human way to say, man, I don't understand that. Why did the way that sister sucked her teeth, what does that mean? Oh, well, in this culture, when she clicks her teeth, like she's not happy with you, right? Like just helping them. So different little things like that, just helping people get comfortable with those things. Yeah, you gotta love your allies, man, but you gotta figure them out early and separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit there.
Right.
Yeah. I'll just add even onto that because I feel like that resonates so deeply with me. Yeah, I think that we need our allies, right? We need our allies and accomplices with us to actually like make these like systemic changes. And some of the best allies I have in my life are the ones that, yeah, we can have real conversations, right? And they're okay with being uncomfortable. And we have a relationship where they can ask me these questions, right? They've built up that social capital with me that I'm like, yep, definitely. I'll explain to you what this means. They're like, oh, nah, you can't be saying that. And here's a bit why. And then the things that they do for me, right? So supporting me in meetings. So exactly, I think, Ricky, what you said, like asking questions that maybe I feel like I cannot ask. Or if you see something happen sideways to one of your BIPOC colleagues, say something. Say something, right? Yeah. Because we're experiencing the tax of feeling that, trying to navigate like, oh no, they probably didn't mean it. I'm sure, right? All the things that a lot of like other folks don't tell us, right? Well, they didn't mean it that way. And I've had some of the most like nourishing allies come up and be like, I just saw what just happened. Is it okay if I say something to the manager, if I say something to leadership? You know, hey, in our all hands meeting, can I bring up the fact that we have a referral-based system and of all the people that you've referred that are POC, none of them been hired, but all these white folks are getting hired, right? So like leverage them, stand on them to help ask these questions and also ask them and help lead on them to bring you into spaces where conversations are being had that you need to be a part of, but you don't see folks that are representing you there, right? So just think again about how their power and influence, how you can work with them to be a part of spaces and drive change that you want.
One thing I'm going to add for our allies is recognize that Black people and marginalized people have very few spaces that are exclusively built for them and of their own. So you have to recognize your space. Every place that I am is not a place for you, right? I need to separate sometimes to recharge in my community, and then I will revisit our allyship, right? And it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means, you know what? I need to go to the barbershop. It's brothers at the barbershop. I need to kind of take this mask off and rest it for a while. And then I'm gonna get back to the conference when I get done getting my haircut, right? Like they gotta know that and be comfortable with that, right? And the barbershop is an analogy for whatever our space is, right?
ERGs, right? Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't mean that, you know, we're there colluding and plotting and scheming. We're building, we're pouring back into each other, because we know when we walk back out of those walls, we're gonna have to pour out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we try not to fall on our face.
Yeah.
I'll add two things real quickly. My heart is so warm right now. I have chills just listening to this conversation. But I mean, two things. One, also, if there are allies listening to this conversation, or if y'all are going to be delivering the message afterwards, I think it's also really important for our allies to show up in conversation with other allies as well. Because I think oftentimes they're either reaching out to us or checking in on us. And then something that was coming up is like also that extra emotional attacks that might come sometimes if you have a well-intentioned ally who's like, tell me why you have your hair in a wrap when we're traveling on the train, or whatever that might be. Instead, it's like, how is someone showing up and being like, let's maybe not ask X person this conversation, but let's Google it together. You know what I mean? So kind of taking that educational responsibility also off on your own. Like, Google is a beautiful thing. There are so many resources. There are so many great Instagram, like whatever it is, whatever is your platform, but that continuous knowledge. And then also practicing active listening. Because let me tell y'all, there is one thing to be in a room and listening for you to respond or be defensive or say, I'm listening to you so that I can show you that I'm a good ally. That's not the move, right? The move is actually saying, when you're creating spaces and folks are sharing, actually listen to what they're saying, not with action, not with why you feel bad because, but just then to create that space. And then it's saying, okay, what can I do? And then the last thing I would just say is like intention over impact. Because again, you can have really well-intentioned folks, but making sure that they're also open when their intent with what they might have said, what they might have done, what they might be doing, and the impact that that might actually have on the people they're trying to support. If those two things don't match up, taking ownership and saying, that is okay, I might have messed up with good intentions that had an impact that I wasn't ready for, and being open to adapting and changing and moving forward without feeling like, woe is me, now I'm a bad ally, I'm gonna stop and sit back until I get it right. But instead being able to say that this is a continuous journey that y'all, because we're all allies in some way to some type of identity or community. And so thinking about how are we just like taking that ownership that it's a continuous learning process, but learning, right? Not making the same mistake over and over, you know? Not mistake, opportunity for growth over and over.
Look, I'm loving this. And I just want to add, identify your own story in the DIB initiatives. There's some part of this initiative where you can connect to. It may not be because you're Black or you're white or you're a part of the LGBTQ community, but you are a part of this story as well, and connect to that and hold true to it. And so with that, time is going fast. Please don't leave. We're going to have a poll really quick to identify which organizations you want to connect with. Please connect with them all, continue the conversation, connect with these brilliant thought leaders here to continue the conversation on LinkedIn, because they took the time out of their busy day to share these jewels with you. So please don't drop. We have a little bit more to come before we close out, but connect with the organization that you believe will help you grow in your DIB initiative. And so I would love to explore, because I think it was you, Sienna, that talked about connecting with other allies. And this is oftentimes a conversation at the table where Black people in my Latinx community, Asian community feel as though, hey, well, our issues matter as well. And why aren't we talking about that? How can BIPOC people better allies to each other.
Creating those spaces and advocating for one another, right? Like something I often talk about is like DEIB is not an end-sum game. It's not that one community wins and moves forward and the rest of us are left behind, but instead of being able to say, we're focusing on like collective healing growth and being able to move all of us forward. And so really, again, just like stopping to actually dig into conversation with people and ask, something you will learn about me is like, I will ask a deep question. I will start off a meeting with something that might seem like it has nothing to do with anything, but it creates those spaces where oftentimes we realize that we have more commonalities and connections than we might think. And so creating those spaces for conversations while also understanding the differences of not just each community's struggles or battles or journeys, but each individual's, right? Because just because I am a Black woman does not mean that I will have the same experience as X, Y, or Z, right? And so really thinking through how are we really having those conversations that matter and focusing on community over competition, right? Because again, it's like, okay, is our organization only focusing on certain demographics? Or are they only focusing on X, Y, Z? And it might have a reverse impact of saying, well, do we matter? Well, like, what does this look like? And so really having those conversations, a quick example is like, we have a huge Latinx, Latino, Latina, Latine community at Power to Fly. And something that we were realizing was like, we don't host any conversations in Spanish. And so one org call, we actually started the organizational call in Spanish, integrating a little bit more of those identities and the stories that were being shared for that visibility. And so, yeah, continuing to have courageous conversations and learning more about one another. And sorry, last thing I'll say is also like, we talk a lot about having a seat at the table. My thing is like, how are we pulling up more chairs, right? How are we getting more chairs? How are we getting more plates? And how are we extending the table for all of us versus saying, we all want to have a seat at the table, but there's only 6 seats. So fight it out. You know what I mean? Versus being able to say, no, we build a bigger table where we can all fit, you know?
Yes, and I want to call out Hugo, and people said "Está bueno." So I am Colombian and Black, and trust me, it is the same across the board as it relates to our struggles. I see it in my family all the time. I've seen it with my Latin colleagues. But Hugo says we have to move forward together. The colonizers win when they make us compete against each other. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Okay, Fran, I see it, Colombiana. Yes, I see you out there. All right, go ahead. Before we close out, 3 minutes left. Ricky, Tila, we would love to hear your thoughts.
My last thought is really about the last comment. It is, we have to, like, you got to recognize that all marginalized groups, we've been a part of each other's struggle forever. So the media and others would have you believe that they are separate struggles. But if in fact you are informed, you know that there were Jewish people part of the civil rights movement and white women part of the civil rights movement and Asian brothers and sisters and Mexican brothers and sisters part of, and we've been part of theirs. So don't fall for the, hey, my thing is my thing. No. Love and love abundantly, right? You got energy to bring and stories to tell and experiences to share. So I always cast a wide net, right? And recognize them for where they are and what they're doing. So I do want to acknowledge those other communities. We're part of the same struggle, man. Everybody wants to be seen, accounted for, accommodated, validated. So that's what I'm about.
Yes.
Love that. And yeah, I mean, just while I'll add on, I feel like what both of you say, like, definitely like resonates with me around like, implore like that empathy part of it, right? Especially when you look at like BIPOC folks, we all have that survivor mentality, right? We're trying to figure out how to survive in our personal lives and our professional lives. And so as much as you can really, ask those questions, really build those communities of connection, because oftentimes we're all just like suffering in silence, right? And someone's experience is not the same as your own, even if you may have similar features, right? It's not the same. We haven't had the conversation about not all skin folk or kinfolk, but that is also a separate conversation to be had for sure. But again, I think just like finding the, like understanding other people's different experiences and what it is like that their intention is and aligning with folks that share that. And then, yeah, exactly. No division division, right? We're united front, because at the end of the day, colonizers, that white supremacy ideals, those all win the more that we're divided, right? And so really looking at those commonalities and figuring out what those united fronts are. And that happens through conversation, through asking questions, right? And through being okay with being uncomfortable.
Yes. And so with that, we are at time from the words of Amanda Peely from our community in the chat. She posted, thank you all so much for your wonderful wisdom and bringing your honest, authentic selves to the conversation. This has been so insightful and inspiring. So guess what, y'all? Do something with it. It's time for you to move. Blessings. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, y'all.